David Nguyen is back at it again, more obsessive and creepy as ever. We have more on his plans of stalking Fuang Mai Chi, a popular singer, and boasting about the free access to her he'll have, along with some other questionable posts. Starting off, he makes this post on Am I the Jerk, exposing his current battle with his caseworker on why he has to go on this trip in 3 weeks. Am I the jerk for disagreeing with my case manager and the care team? So I'm currently seeing a case manager who's tied into a team that consists of psychiatrists and a therapist. They are all against me. I'm currently having some issues and I need to sort them out with a lady friend of mine. And in order to do that, I feel like I have to go see her in person. I'm planning on doing that very soon in about 3 weeks or so. To begin with here, Mr. Nguyen is in fact out on bond as of right now, meaning any attempts at leaving or fleeing the state will be a violation of his bail conditions and can and should lead to an arrest warrant for him. Aside from that, his only issue with this lady friend of his is his stalking. He not only does not know this poor lady personally, but he's been keeping tabs on her since she was 11 and he was 23. There's literally no issue to sort out with her, David, because there's no form of relationship to be had with her. Ignoring the poor reasoning for the trip, because in the end that's just David justifying it. He understands he's a fan and it bleeds through in the rest of the post. He just doesn't care. He has a need to talk to her, and so she owes him a chance to talk. Finishing the post, he says, my case manager is against that idea, and she said that I ain't gonna be going anywhere. She got mean to me and said, we were told by multiple sources of your behavior in winter 2024 in Baltimore, and we aren't going to let a repeat of that happen again. I got mad and told her that what did I do wrong with that, and she claimed it was because I was following my friend around and talking to her when she was working. I told her that she needs to cool off on it as I wasn't doing anything to harm anyone and that it was perfectly normal to follow a musician around as that is their job and that is to interact with fans. The caseworker are referring to another incident of his stalking where he did exactly what he plans to do with this next girl, follow them around compulsively and making them fearful of him. He's just so clearly a repeat offender when it comes to this type of shit. Like, sure, you could make the argument these celebrities do rely on their fans for support financially in a way. His next comment he leaves under a sock account on an archive of his question. It's just ridiculous. No, they are obligated to talk to you. The fans are basically their employers. I'm gonna be doing just that and you can't stop me. Comparing that to an employer-employee relationship is absurd, and even then you don't owe your employer a friendship or really even a conversation outside of work, which would be this backstage talking or following around after or before the performance this freak plans on doing. Of course, though, David could never understand that reasoning. Moving forward with the rest of that post, it reads, same thing that American artists do like Post Malone and Justin Bieber. I told my caseworker that she's overreacting because this musician is my friend, so it makes a whole lot different than others. I got permission to go backstage at these places as my friend gave me permission to do so. My caseworker got mad and said, no, you're just making up excuses. You don't know this woman at all and she never gave you permission to go backstage. That's something that you made up to cover up for getting booted and barred from Baltimore. We're not letting history repeat itself. I'm so angry and so just wanting to repair things with someone who I'm very close with. I'm not harming anyone by wanting to see a friend. I told my case manager that I needed to leave the appointment because I couldn't stand her making me mad. Am I the jerk for disagreeing with my case manager? David, guy, even your caseworker is calling you out for not knowing this lady personally. Maybe you could argue it isn't safe to prove your relationship by showing the whole internet you've contacted her, but you can't even do that to prove to your caseworker you're clearly just lying. They deal with freaks like you fairly often, I'm sure, and not to diss anyone in therapy, I'm just saying that people with David's issues aren't too rare, I'm sure, but they've picked up on how to tell when you're fibbing is what I'm getting at, Dave. You can't handle this criticism, however, and you run home like a little child having a temper tantrum. This guy is over 30 years old, and he needs this inpatient care to take care of his compulsions and emotions and degenerate behavior just to get it all under control. Like, he is at this point outperformed by children in this regard. Next alarming comment now. You all and the car team can talk shit all you want, but neither you or they can anything to stop me. I still got fudge and access to the airport and I'm boarding my plane. I'm gonna see her at the festival in the Midwest where it's gonna be easy to have access to her. I'm not telling you all where it is, but it is somewhere near Chicago. I will be going in 3 weeks from today and there's nothing you or anyone can do to stop me. In this In his sick mind, he's dead set on seeing this girl. No one's stopping him, and honestly, I fear for this woman. Every Asian community in America and Canada should be aware of this guy's antics, especially Chicago, as it seems that's where David intends on heading 3 weeks from now. I can't be crazy, though, in being alarmed with the phrase access to her. There's no way a fella like David has good intentions when he's already acting like this girl's some object he deserves to have access to, like he's flaunting this fact. Next comment, he says, "You're just talking shit. She never hired security and she never will. And she doesn't need security because she's not popular. I will have easy access to her." Just reiterating and boasting about the easy access to her, it's just so unsettling and odd. You know, I just can't stress enough how worrisome his phrasing is with this shit. Some of the intentions he seems to have with this girl are poking through in his Twitter posts we'll see later on. But first, we've happened across yet another Am I the Jerk post by our main antagonist David Nguyen. To see the whole picture, I'll read it for the class. "Am I the jerk for venturing out to see a woman despite many telling me not to see her? So I'm extremely mad, frustrated, and upset. And I'm having issues with a lady friend of mine and people aren't being understanding. This lady friend of mine, we'll call her by Jilliana or Jill, so I've known Jill for almost a decade, and lately we've been having issues ever since this new friend of hers came into the picture. She's a musician, and she and I have always been this close-knit sibling type of friendship, and we always check in with each other. Lately, I've been trying to reach out to her to chat and check in, and she's been unresponsive to the point where I've had to call her on the phone to get a hold of her. She used to call me sweetie or sweetheart and treated me like a little brother, and lately she hasn't been doing that. I tried telling her many times that I miss her, and she doesn't say anything back in return. She would tell this other dork named Tom or Thomas back that she missed him and would call him by those names of endearment, but not me. She started calling me by my first name online, and it bothers me. My friends tell me that I'm making a big deal out of nothing, and she's not obligated to call me by those nicknames like she used to. I'm just angry and upset, because this is someone who has provided me emotional support that I've needed for years. I've been trying to get a girlfriend for years and no one wants to date me. She was the one who provided me the affection I needed from a girl, and I thought that I could have her do that for me until the time came that I can travel to Vietnam and meet a girl to get married to. I'm so angry that I've decided to see her in a few weeks, to have this heart-to-heart with her and to repair things. I got a feeling that some of these issues are stemming from untrue rumors spread about me online. My friends and multiple therapists of mine, on the other hand, have warned me not to do this as they claimed that it is crossing boundaries and etc. But I think it is not. She knows that I'm coming because I called her on the phone and told her that I'm coming and she was cool with it. I don't think many people understand that she's really important to me and I need her. Everyone is calling me a jerk for not listening and says I'm setting myself up for failure and a restraining order. My therapist and the care team are trying to get people to detain me so I'm not even at my house anymore. I'm hiding in a hotel until the time that I fly out. I find it funny that people think she will put a restraining order on me. I don't think my friend would put an RO out on me because I personally know her. Everyone is just blowing things out of proportion. Am I the jerk for not listening to anyone's advice? Now, essentially, in so many words, David is avoiding inpatient care by hiding in a hotel in order to follow through with his stalking of this girl. He's adamant that she wants him to be there. Won't straight up say she's elated or excited to see him, but supposedly she knows he's coming. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe she responded to a comment of his on social media or something similar, but this therapist clearly seems to think this girl has no clue who David is. But despite arguing amongst the crowd who unanimously agreed he's the asshole and setting himself up for that restraining order, it just shows us this clear goal of seeing her no matter the cost. He needs more invasive help. Refusing to take his mental health seriously, and as pointed out by a Reddit user before me, you can see his awful sleep schedule in his Twitter posts, with just the other day, the biggest gap being 5 hours between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. of no posts. His habits giving us the idea he mostly stays awake all night, only sleeping during the day, if he gets sleep at all. That leads me to my next point, though. Unfortunately, the only Twitter David bothers posting on more than the nonsense he's thinking in the moment has been taken down, but that doesn't mean he's quit the posting. Posting multiple times an hour every single day while making some of his Reddit posts and replying to the comments, he also started feeling a little freaky over on Twitter. Further worrying me, having these weird thoughts on his mind while defending his decisions to go out and seek that girl. First, highlighting these, David says, "Women are screaming for David. Women are screaming for David Nguyen." I am the man you want. The only screams referring to David coming out of a woman's mouth from all I've seen are cries for help or chastising him for flashing a woman's daughter. Though, no, these women screaming for David should know, in his eyes, he's the perfect match for them. He says, women would cuddle me all day. Women would see me as a potential husband. I hope no woman sees this guy as a potential husband. No job, spends all his day on Twitter and Reddit defending his degenerate behavior and obsessing over questionably young famous women. No thanks. Well, that's a tad creepy knowing David, right? Well, of course you know it has to get worse. With most of this being too freaky for YouTube, I'll just display it. For those only listening though, it's just all different ways he plans on effing a lady. I mean, this guy, he just thinks so highly of himself, which is so puzzling because, like, how? You know, with all the things that make his life awful, make him such an awful person, he still has the balls to call himself essentially a god or a pharaoh or some shit. I can't imagine having such a huge ego to go along with accomplishing nothing but terrible things for your whole life. Other than that, we see more Gooner posts from around the same time. The most worrisome of which being the sperm and egg description he gave. You just have to take a step back and glance at the whole picture sometimes with the sporadic nature of his posts to really get what his whole truth is day by day, considering all his weird Gooner posts while also claiming to go out to see his lady friend who totally knows he's coming and totally knows who he is, etc. He's just so creepy, bro. Moving on with the final thing I wanted to touch on though, you can't have Booger King David win without a lolcow / predator defense video. A terribly put together one, I might add. I'll try my best to cut out the pointless bits, but this guy just stutters and ums through everything, so I'm sorry about that.
Hi there, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to have a little discussion, talk about a culture, or I would say more like a cult, called lolcow culture. And this culture is pretty bad. This culture is basically cyberbullying to the maximum. It consists of harassing, stalking, and documenting their victims' activities online.
At 0 to 50 seconds, we see David trying to cough out an intro for nearly a minute to get his opinion on people like me out, calling, and I quote, lolcow culture a cult and claiming we stalk, harass, and document our victims online. But to get an idea of the structure of this video, David starts out with pulling the mental illness card, which, as iterated before, doesn't exempt you of your crimes or behavior, but the guy even throws some shade at his buddy Cyrax he's always defending.
And this culture is pretty bad. This culture is basically cyberbullying to the maximum. It consists of harassing, stalking, and documenting their victims' activities online. Now, this is very sick. It's pretty sick, you know, because most of these people who are victims, they call them cows. And most of these people who are, you know, who are they call cows, most of these victims, they're most likely neurodivergent, that's what it's called. Most of them are neurodivergent. They have, you know, mental illnesses, and some that are really, are like, I guess, underdeveloped mentally. You know, so, you know, there's quite a few people who are victims, you know. One guy named Chance, who's from Akron, Ohio. He's really mentally underdeveloped, and so.
Next, though, we get to see him at least acknowledge Cyrax's allegations
And stuff to fuck up. I'm not so sure about him. You know, many people have said that he's guilty of things, but he seems to continue to feed into these trolls like William Blorhill and all these people who are harassing him. He seems to feed into them rather than just, you know, block or report them or forever. But they go to extreme, these people control him because the extremes, like they would do things like send random stuff into his house, drop paint buckets on his house. Then they do a lot of crazy stuff. Then they try to set his parents' car on fire.
So previously you were so gung-ho about Chance the Goblin being innocent, even claiming you had plans to fly out to Akron to give Buddy a PC. Now you don't know about him? Okay, whatever, but you of all people have no place to stand when talking about playing into the trolls. As opposed to blocking them. This guy David routinely browses lolcow USA r/David Nguyen with sock accounts after sock accounts in order to incriminate himself, then argue and threaten anyone who talks to him. You, David, are constantly stoking the flame, taunting people who dislike you due to your degenerate behavior, and act shocked when you have to deal with the consequences of that. I don't like you, David, but you, me, and literally everyone in those subreddits would benefit if you took that inpatient stay and disappeared for a few months. Some people's lives would be quieter and a lot more peaceful, including the lives of your poor friends and family, and probably these lady friends you're stalking, but I guess this fart smell, he won't ever change. After defending Chance, the confirmed PDF file, he switches on to Chris Chan, who is, believe it or not, another kind of predator that David will defend. But Chris is like the founding father of all lolcows.
That's just an example. And then there's another guy named Chris Chan, who is basically the first, I guess you could say, lolcow, or the first cow. You know, Chris is a man who is autistic too. He's autistic. And the sad part is that, we're seeing these people exploit him for his autism, and they're people who are lolcows, they are, they fall victim to, harassment a lot more because they just cannot, take it. It's really sad. Most of this stuff, it consists of, planning and harassing people. And most of it is organized on a website called Kiwi Farms.
Complaining about Chris being harassed, I kind of get it. The shit that Blue Spike Troll did was kind of crazy, but can you really defend a guy who was confirmed to have R-worded his Alzheimer's mother, who not only could no longer consent just due to her mental condition, but it's his fucking mom, dude. Like, you're sick for claiming this guy's a victim, David. Yapping on about more Kiwi Farm stuff, it's not even worth listening to. Around the 4-minute mark, or 4.5-minute mark, David can't get over it, though. In his head, why anyone would dislike someone such as himself or Cyrax or any lolcow with this clip.
There's so many people who are victims of this cult, I would say. And it's pretty scary that nothing's being done. Many people have called law enforcement and stuff and try to report it, and law enforcement doesn't really do anything because they deem it as free speech. Well, this is basically hate speech, or basically slander, harassment, which is what these people are doing.
The guy answers his own question as why criticism and documenting of his crimes and talking about them is legal. It's free speech, Jit. What the police should be looking into, however, is this planned trip you have to stalk this poor singer. Honestly, just to sum up the whole video, because I'm, again, sick of this guy, David is going to great lengths to stalk his next victim, fighting yet again with social workers, posting freak shit to Twitter as usual, and, of course, defending lolcows. I'm McGrubba, and hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe for more shit like this. Later, Grubbas.